some principles we need to understand. Like I said, feel free to interject at any point if you don't understand or you want to ask a question or you want to rebut, please feel free. So, Satan is the god of this world. And so, by implication, the systems of this world are run by him, e.g., for example, capitalism, Matthew 4:8-9. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And I've put here lust of the eyes and the pride of life. And saith unto him, all these things I will give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. So Satan tempts Jesus by showing him the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And so if he's the God of the world, that means he has a certain amount of power and control. Obviously, God is sovereign, and anything that Satan does, he cannot do outside of what God has allowed, but Satan is the God of this world. He's the prince of the power of the air or airwaves. He controls this world and its systems, right? I think we can all agree on that. So on capitalism. Capitalism relies on exploitation of the poor. Capitalism is not a holy economic system. The law governed every aspect of Hebrew life. The Hebrews lived by a godly and principled economic philosophy. If you want to hear some more about that, we've got a family day we did, the last one we did, and if you check that out, you'll hear more about the Hebrews' economic system. Most governments in the that's on YouTube on Young Adult Ministries TV. So most governments in this world, especially in the West, are not actively trying to dismantle the Antichrist economic system they practice. Some governments practice mixed economies where they have free market capitalism and they mix in some other social democratic ideas and stuff like that. But for the most part, most Western economies are running an economic system, which, like I said, relies on the exploitation of the poor, which I think we can all agree is anti-Bible, right? So, from a book called Why Marx Was Right by Terry Eagleton, let me just say I'm not a communist and I'm not a Marxist, but I believe that Marxism asked a lot of the right questions, but didn't actually come up with the right answer. So listen to this. In our own time, as Marx predicted, inequalities of wealth have dramatically deepened. The income of a single Mexican billionaire today is equivalent to the earnings of 17 million of his compatriots. Capitalism has created more prosperity than history has ever witnessed, but the cost, not least in the near destitution of billions, has been astronomical. According to the World Bank, 2.74 billion people in 2001 lived on less than $2 a day. We face a probable future of nuclear armed states warring over a scarcity of resources, and that scarcity is largely the consequence of capitalism itself. For the first time in history, our prevailing form of life has the power not simply to breed racism and spread cultural cretinism, drive us into war or herd us into labor camps, but to wipe us from the planet. Capitalism will behave anti-socially if it is profitable for it to do so. And that can now mean human devastation on an unimaginable scale. Let me reveal to you that I studied politics for 6 years. I have a degree in it. It might not be a good one, but that's for other purposes. But I studied it for 6 years. And at the time when I was writing essays about capitalism, I was saying that it is the best system that best reflects human nature. Because the Bible says that our heart is deceitful and desperately wicked, right? And so capitalism is the best system that allows us to live in harmony. This is what I used to write, without killing each other, basically, because it allows us to express our wickedness. And then, so my ideas of actually helping society was to kind of go down the new labor route and to look for equality of opportunity. And that's the best that we could actually do. Those days, I was not saved and I wasn't reading the Bible. I was reading a lot of philosophy, right? And actually, a lot of political philosophy and modern thought is based on men trying to be good without God. And so in a lot of my essays and a lot of my reasoning, I was thinking, okay, how do we make society better? We make society better, and the best thing we can do, the best thing we can hope for and strive for is equality of opportunity. And this is what a lot of capitalist economies do. They try to bring about equality of opportunity, even though they still operate the exploitative system of capitalism, which is, it's contradictory, and you can't actually do it because the foundation of it is exploitation, like I said. Anybody want to intervene or chime in? We just looked at capitalism, right? And as I've said, it is not you can't synchronize capitalism with God's character or divine nature. You just can't. So I think we can all fairly say that capitalism, right? We can agree that capitalism is not a godly way to operate things, especially when we have the examples of the Hebrews and how they operated, right? Okay. But we are in the world and not of the world, right? So,
sorry, can I briefly jump just quickly?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying about capitalism based upon exploitation.
Yeah.
I think, to my mind, and that's in fairness, I'm not well versed in the Hebrew system,
right?
So I obviously need to learn up on that. But I feel like I'm kind of currently at the point where you were like years ago when you were studying, like when you were young. Younger. So, I haven't evolved.
Past equality of opportunity.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, seriously. I'm still stuck there, and so I currently see capitalism as the pretty much what you said, the best system that we have at the moment, which is bad, but what else is better?
Right. I know, I get that, and I agree with you on the equality of opportunity thing being an ideal, but capitalism has failed, and that's what Western countries haven't come to terms with. It actually has failed. People will say it's been successful, but actually, if you're from Africa and you've been exploited, then you would say it's failed. Do you know what I mean? Because capitalism is the reason why we have grown up believing that Africa just should be exploited, like, and that they shouldn't have anything, and that Apple can take advantage of Congo but not give anything back to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, those kind of mentalities and behaviors have been ingrained into us through education systems. And so, yes, capitalism is the best system for who? Sinners, right? So technically you could say, do you know what? Actually, as we do live in this world and not of it, and we are forced to be in the system, and we should be building the kingdom, which we'll get to later, actually let them do what they're doing with their capitalism, because, you know, that's not, we have to take part in it in some way, but that's not us. That's not what we're going to operate. When we have the opportunity, i.e. acts, we're going to have all things common, or we're going to build the kingdom and actually have our own schools and our own banks, and we're going to operate credit how the Bible would tell us to operate credit. Like, there's a church in Detroit, Greater Grace, I think, Temple of the PAW Church, and they have their own credit union. And as you know, or you might not know, but probably do know, that in the Old Testament, you're not allowed to lend money to another Jew with interest, or Hebrew with interest.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay, cool. I've heard about that I believe in Islam, they do that. I didn't know that was...
That was it.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Right. So God, the law, actually, like I said previously, the law provided for every part of life. It gave principles. So I couldn't lend to you with interest. Also, I couldn't lend money in such a way that it would cause like disaster in society. It's called usury. So I wouldn't be allowed to lend at such a high interest rate that I'm causing like people to be like just broken down, even if they weren't Jewish, because obviously they would lend to others who were not a part of the community and their own community. So yeah, I mean, and Islam took that from our God, from our principles. They're thieves anyway, because their religion came how many years after, so they stole that principle. But yeah, so yeah, you know.
Okay. So yeah.
I have a question more than a statement or to add
Yes.
anything. It's just a question of, okay, so the system that we are in now, I mean, I kind of now feel bad that, like, no, like, I'm very passionate about stuff like this anyways, as opposed to like politics and stuff. So I'm thinking now, like, oh, is it therefore bad then to feel like my ambition in life is literally just to keep climbing? And then, you know, obviously what I do with what I've climbed for is different. But I mean, like, I see CEOs and I see, you know, all of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do and be that. My question now is that wrong maybe for a Christian?
We're going to come to that, but I would say that I don't think there's anything wrong with having aspirations. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder once. Now I don't care so much about that. But there's nothing wrong with having aspirations and being successful. But we are here, and like I said, we're going to get into this later, more detail, to build and enforce the kingdom. Which, when I say the kingdom, I want you to think of it this way: God's way of doing things. If what you're going to be doing is going to be done in a kingdom way with kingdom principles, then I don't see why you shouldn't want to be successful. But if you have to compromise doing things God's way, then you need to be scared and go back to him and say, God, I need a new perspective about how I want to live my life. Because if we are trying to climb the corporate ladder in this world, and a lot of successful Christians do, and I'm not saying they have to compromise, but if we are doing that and we're not being kingdom in our behavior, we are in conflict with the Bible. That's what I would say. Someone else might have a different opinion. Anybody else want to chime in?